Today we'll be covering metals and non-metals in a little more detail, and we'll be talking about various reactions of metals. This is what we had been talking about that day. We saw the chemical properties of metals, and we had covered this part, burning of metal in air. Today we'll be talking about the other parts like reaction of a metal with another metallic salt solution, reaction of a metal with water, a metal with an acid, and a metal with a non-metal. So this is what we had done in the previous class. I'm just repeating because some of you are joining for the first time. Here, whenever metals are burnt in oxygen, they give metallic oxide. Now, this metallic oxide can have different properties. This is one of the examples where we were burning copper and we were getting black colored powder of copper oxide. Then we also saw the burning of aluminium. It burns with a dazzling white flame and it again gives a white powder of aluminium oxide. Then we saw that we should always store sodium and potassium in kerosene because they react with oxygen very vigorously and they might catch fire. That is why we always store sodium and potassium in kerosene oil. And then we ended on this note that metallic oxides are basic oxides and non-metallic oxides are acidic oxides. But today I would like to make an addition to the first statement. Here it says that metallic oxides are basic oxides, but there may be a few metallic oxides which are basic also and which are acidic also. So metallic oxides are either basic or some of the metallic oxides can also be amphoteric oxide. Amphoteric oxide means they show both basic nature as well as acidic nature. So metallic oxides can be basic oxides or they can show both the natures. They can be amphoteric oxides. So what exactly are amphoteric oxides? See, we know that if an oxide is acidic oxide, first of all let us remember the neutralization reaction once again. Acid reacts with base to give salt and water. Okay. So if an oxide is such that it reacts with base to give salt and water. So what I am saying is that if a metallic oxide reacts with a base to give salt and water, this is the first condition. And the second condition is that if the metallic oxide reacts with an acid, it again gives me the same thing. It gives me salt plus water. Then any oxide that satisfies both these conditions is known as an amphoteric oxide. So how will you define it? This definition is asked in exam many a times. How will you define an amphoteric oxide? So what will we say? That an oxide which reacts with a base or an acid to give salt and water is known as an amphoteric oxide. So let me write it. An oxide which reacts with acid as well as base to give salt and water. Such oxides are known as amphoteric oxides because they are showing acidic nature also. They are also showing basic nature. So let's see a few examples now. First example is aluminium oxide. What will the formula of aluminium oxide be? Yes, come on, use the chat box or unmute yourself and give me the formula of aluminium oxide. Don't be so thanda. Yeah, Rishabh is saying it's Al2O3. And I agree because we know that the valency of aluminium is 3 plus and oxide is O2 minus. So aluminium oxide would be Al2O3. So a common question is that show two reactions which prove that aluminium oxide is an amphoteric oxide. So how will we do that? Show two reactions to prove that Al2O3 is an amphoteric oxide. So how can we do that? We'll do one thing. We will react it with an acid and we will also react it with a base. And if in both the cases we get salt and water, then it will prove that aluminium oxide is an amphoteric oxide. So let me first take this aluminium oxide, react it with an acid. So we can take any acid. Here I would take the simplest of all, which is hydrochloric acid. So that is HCl. Fine. Now what do you think? What are the products going to be? What can be the products of this reaction? Silence. So we know that we need salt and water. This reaction is actually a double displacement reaction. So aluminium will take the place of hydrogen and hydrogen will take the place of aluminium. So can you tell me the products now? It is a double displacement reaction. Yeah, I actually cannot hear you. Alright. And why is that so? Oh, I remember. Wait, let me correct that. Give me a second. I'll do one thing. I'll allow you to unmute yourself. Then it would be fine. Yeah. Okay, so I think now you can unmute and tell me the answer. But I got an answer here that we are going to get a salt and water. So that salt would be aluminium chloride. So aluminium is Al3 plus and chloride is Cl minus. So aluminium chloride would be AlCl3. So we'll get AlCl3 and along with it we are going to get water. So we got salt and water. Now let's do one thing. Let's react this aluminium oxide with a base. So we take aluminium oxide and now instead of reacting it with an acid, let me react it with a base. So again I'll take the strongest, simplest base, which is sodium hydroxide. Can anyone guess the product here? The products are going to be very interesting in this case. But any guesses? What do you think? What can the products be in this case? So Rishabh is saying Na3Al plus water. No Rishabh, see Na also is a metal, Al also is a metal. So how will we get Na3Al? Whenever we form any compound, it is formed by a cation reacting with an anion. Here we are actually going to get a complex salt and its name is sodium aluminate. Do you remember aluminate ion? It is there in the list that I've shared with you. We are going to get sodium aluminate. And see, sodium ion is Na plus. Aluminate ion is AlO4 minus. Okay. So what is sodium aluminate? Oh sorry, AlO2 minus. So what is sodium aluminate? NaAlO2. Okay. So here we'll get sodium aluminate NaAlO2. Along with it we'll get some water. So this reaction is extremely important for your board exams. Remember this compound, sodium aluminate. So this is again a salt and water. So hence we have proved that aluminium oxide is an amphoteric oxide because it is reacting with an acid to give salt and water. It is reacting with a base to give salt and water. So I hope that is clear. Now let's do the same thing for zinc oxide. Even zinc oxide is an amphoteric oxide. So again in the same way we are going to write reactions of zinc oxide with an acid and zinc oxide with a base. So first reaction would be what? We'll take zinc oxide. Zinc is Zn2 plus. Oxide is O2 minus. So zinc oxide would be ZnO. ZnO, when it reacts with an acid, what are we going to get? Dhruv, Krish, Vedant, Arushi, answer me. What are we going to get here? So this is again a double displacement reaction. So hydrogen will come over here and zinc would come here. So what are the products going to be? Rishit and Nandana have answered. Yeah. So we'll get zinc chloride. Zinc is Zn2 plus, chloride is Cl minus. So zinc chloride would be ZnCl2. Along with it, we'll also get some water. So we got salt and water. Rishabh, I think you can unmute yourself now. Now, the second case. Here, we will take zinc oxide and this time we have to react it with a base. So, that base is, again let's take NaOH. Do you know what the product is going to be? It is again going to be something very funny, very complex. This time, see, last time what we got was sodium aluminate. This time we are going to get sodium zincate. Sodium zincate and water. Now, what is the formula of sodium zincate? What is zincate ion? So, zincate ion is ZnO2 2 minus. Okay, and sodium is Na plus. So now can you tell me what sodium zincate would be? What is the formula of sodium zincate? So this 1 will come here, this 2 will come this side. So sodium zincate would be Na2ZnO2. Okay, Na2ZnO2. Chalo, now jaldi se balance all these 4 reactions. Let's balance these two first. So, someone unmute yourself and give me the answer of the first one. We are trying to balance this equation. Anupam is saying that it should be 2 HCl over here. Yes, Anupam, I agree. And I'll just write a 2 over here. This is balanced. Now the second one. Let's balance this equation. The sodium zincate one, the scary one. So Soumya is saying that it should be 2 NaOH over here. Okay. Yeah, I think this equation is also balanced. 2, 2, 3. Yeah, this is balanced. But we did not do it for this equation. Let's balance this one now. So I know I couldn't hear you because my laptop was muted. So yeah, I can hear you now. Give me the answer of the first one. Let's balance this equation. It's a little bit complex, but let's try.
Ma'am, I got,
Yeah, Nandana, tell me.
but I think it is wrong. I don't know.
Okay,
See, the
let's try.
first one HCl1,
Hmm.
6 HCl,
Okay.
then 2 aluminium.
2 over here.
Oh, ma'am, the other side.
Okay. 2 aluminum chloride.
And 3 H2O.
3H2O. Okay, now let us check if it's right or not. So even Soumya is saying the same thing. I think it's balanced, right? Yeah, it is balanced. Fine, very good. Now let's balance the second one. So let me just ask the new students. So Dhruv, Krish, Vedant and Rishit, are you comfortable with balancing the equations? If you're not, we can have a practice session for half an hour, maybe tomorrow or day after. Okay, so just let me know. Fine, so who has balanced?
Ma'am,
Yeah, Rishit.
I think I've got it.
Yeah, tell me.
So 2H2O on the right side,
Hmm?
4 NaOH on the left side,
Hmm?
and 2 Na2, 2 sodium aluminum.
So, Rishabh, is your mom teaching in the background?
Yeah, she is.
Okay, okay. She sounds very happy. Fine. So, is this equation balanced? 1, 4, 2, 2. Yeah, I think this is balanced. So, never forget to balance the chemical equation whenever you are writing any equation. So, this is a question from 2014. So, does it look easy now? What are the answers? First of all, what is meant by amphoteric oxides? Chalo, let's see. Let's see who answers first. Okay. So oxides which react both with acid and base to give salt and water are known as amphoteric oxides. So now let's choose the amphoteric oxides from the following. Which are amphoteric? We just saw. One is zinc oxide, another one is aluminium oxide. So this question was a 3 marker. First part was of 2 marks and second part was of 1 mark. So now this is again from 2016. This was for 1 mark. This also was of 1 mark. So chalo, tell me, why is zinc oxide considered as an amphoteric oxide?
Because it reacts with both acid and base.
To give?
Salt and water.
Yeah, you have to say the complete thing. Zinc oxide reacts with acid and base to give salt and water. And the second part, this we had seen in the last class. Why do metals conduct electricity? So why is it so?
Because they easily lose electrons.
Because they have free
Yeah.
electrons.
Yeah, they have free electrons. They easily lose electrons. So these electrons can flow in the surface of the metal. Now let's talk about the reaction of metals with salt solution. This is nothing but single displacement reaction. And we saw this in chapter 1. So this would just be a revision. It is a single displacement reaction. And what happens here is that if we take a metal, okay, if we take a metal in solid form and we react it with a metallic salt solution, with a metallic salt solution, then what do we get? So this metal takes the position of this metal and metal from the salt becomes free. So what do we get? Suppose this is metal A and this is metallic salt solution. Let's call it BX. Fine. So what will we get? This A replaces B. So we get AX and B becomes separate. So now this is in solid form and this is a solution. This becomes aqueous. Earlier this was aqueous. What happened? The metals just exchanged their position. And there was a very essential condition for this reaction to take place. Do you remember what that condition was? What was the condition for this reaction to take place? Everyone has forgotten. So the basic condition was that metal A should be more reactive than metal B. This can only take place when metal A is more reactive than metal B. And then I have a song to remember the reactivity series of metals. What was that song or what was that acronym to remember this?
Please stop being a careless zebra. Instead, try learning how copper saves gold and platinum. Gold platinum.
Yeah, Rishabh, very good, very good. So we will not call you a careless zebra. Let's see. So what is reactivity series? Here elements, mostly metals, but we'll also be including 2 non-metals in this series. So here elements are arranged in decreasing order of their reactivity, of their reactivities. So what is reactivity? It is the degree to which a substance is reactive. Suppose if we talk about potassium, potassium reacts even with cold water. But if you take magnesium, magnesium cannot react with cold water. Magnesium can only react with very hot water. So what does that mean? This means that potassium is more reactive. So here in this series, we arrange elements in decreasing order of reactivities. And we have a way to remember it because it is long. Please stop calling me a careless zebra. Instead, try learning how copper saves gold platinum. So what are the different elements? First we have potassium. So this is the most reactive element. Then we have sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminium. Then we have a non-metal, carbon. Then zinc, iron, tin is Sn, lead is Pb, hydrogen is H. This is again a non-metal. So carbon and hydrogen are two non-metals which have been placed in this series. Copper is Cu, silver is Ag, gold is Au, platinum is Pt. So Rishabh is asking me, is mercury not in the reactivity series? So Rishabh, mercury also can be placed in this series, but for us it is not very important because mercury is not very reactive. But of course we can place it in this series and it comes somewhere around here, somewhere after copper. Okay. So what are the different uses of reactivity series? Again, a question from a previous year paper. One is we can decide how these elements react with water. Next thing, we can decide what is the nature of displacement reactions. And we can also decide how can we extract this metal from its ore. So this second part we will cover it in the next class when we talk about metallurgy. And we'll see an experiment now. So here I took a test tube. In that test tube I placed an iron nail. Okay. So we know the color of iron, it is grey, right? So I've written it with grey. So we took an iron nail and then we filled some blue vitriol solution in it. What is blue vitriol? CuSO4.5H2O. So this is a solution. So it's just CuSO4. So we have iron and we have CuSO4 solution. This is aqueous, this is solid. Fine. So is iron more reactive than copper? So if I write the reactivity series, please stop calling me a careless zebra. Instead, iron, try learning how copper. So what do you think? We have iron over here and copper is down here. So that means that iron is more reactive. So because iron is more reactive, it can throw away this copper. It will displace copper from here. It will form ferrous sulfate. Alright. It will form ferrous sulfate and this copper bichara, it will be left alone. Fine. Now we see that some color in this solution has changed. Why is that happening? Because this ferrous sulfate is now pale green in color and copper is reddish brown. Okay. So this copper that is forming over here, it goes and it applies a coating of copper on iron. So this iron nail, which was previously grey in color, now it looks reddish brown because copper has formed a coating on this iron nail. And the color of the solution, copper sulfate, was blue in color. Fine. But now it is ferrous sulfate. So the color of the solution has become pale green. So this question has been asked almost every year in your board exam. This is also given in your book, I think, this diagram. Okay, now let's write another equation. So now what is the reaction? We have zinc and zinc is reacting with potassium sulfate solution. Chalo, come up with the answer now. Tell me the equation. Zinc would be Zn and it is reacting with potassium sulfate. So potassium is K plus, sulfate is SO4 2 minus. So it should be K2SO4, right? So if we write K2SO4 over here, what do we get? Okay, let me write the reactivity series. Please stop calling me a careless zebra. So what do we see here? That potassium is at the top. It is most reactive. And zinc comes at the bottom. So that is why, because zinc is less reactive, it cannot do anything to potassium. It cannot throw away potassium. So here we won't have any reaction. There won't be any observational change because the reaction will not take place. Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah, Somil, tell me.
Ma'am, will it not displace the sulfate ion?
No. See, here sulfate is the anion. It is -2. And whenever we talk about this displacement reaction, a cation displaces another cation. Or an anion displaces another anion. But see, zinc is a metal, so it forms a cation. A cation can only displace another cation. It cannot displace an anion. Fine?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Hey Swati, hi. So a question from 2010 Delhi paper. Let's see. So like I said, this is asked almost every year. So tell me what the observations would be.
The color of the solution changes to pale green.
Yeah. Color of the solution changes to pale green. But you also have to
And
write
I
the
say
reason.
looking of red brownish color.
Yeah, very good, Krish. So color of the solution changes to pale green. You have to write why. So it is due to the formation of ferrous sulfate. Formation of ferrous sulfate. And next point, as Krish said, that a reddish brown coating of iron, no, of copper is formed on the iron nail. On the iron nail. You won't believe this is a 3-mark question in board exam. So it is either asked for 2 marks or for 3 marks. So you should know this. Another question. Yeah, tell me.
KNA2Ag.
Yeah, very good, Rishabh. So potassium is more reactive than sodium, which is more reactive than copper, and then we have silver. So all of you should learn reactivity series, and you know a simple way to learn it. Okay, so please learn the reactivity series. So let me launch the first poll of the day in continuation with the last class. Last time we had 2 polls. So your time starts now. Let me end the poll and share the results. First one, the metals that can dash electrons easily are dash metals. So yeah, most of you have said that metals that can lose electrons easily are reactive metals. Metallic nature depends on the ability of an element to lose electrons. So if an element can lose electrons very easily, that means that it is going to be a very reactive metal. Fine. So the correct option is the second option. Second question. Why are platinum, silver and gold used to make jewelry? So it was a multiple choice question. First thing is, yeah, they are less reactive. So if they are less reactive, they do not get corroded easily. So first option is correct. Then they are lustrous. They shine so nicely that we all love them. So they are lustrous is another answer. Third is that they do not corrode easily. Third question. What do you observe when zinc is added to a solution of ferrous sulfate? So what is going to happen? Just look at my screen. So we have zinc and we have a solution of ferrous sulfate. Okay. And if I talk about colors, first of all, this is solid, this is aqueous. And I think zinc is more reactive than iron, but I must write the reactivity series and see. MgAlZn. Yeah, then Fe. So Fe is less reactive than zinc. So zinc will throw away, it will displace iron from here. So we'll get zinc sulfate and iron. Okay. Now let's write the colors. So zinc is silvery white in color. Zinc is silvery white. Ferrous sulfate is again pale green. So in chemistry, colors are very important. Now, zinc sulfate is actually a white powder, but when it is mixed in water, it becomes a colorless liquid. So this solution is colorless, and iron, we know it is grey in color. So there are going to be two observations. First is that the solution changes from pale green to colorless. Okay, and the second answer would be that a grey coating of iron is formed on the zinc metal. So these are the two correct answers. First option is correct, that a grey coating of iron is formed on zinc, and second equation is correct. Sorry, the second correct option is that the solution becomes colorless. So there was a lot of confusion here, people. Most of you said that the solution becomes pale green. The solution was pale green already. Now after the reaction, it is actually going to become colorless, and a grey coating of iron will form on zinc. So first option is correct and third option is correct. Okay, next question. Which of the following pairs will give displacement reaction? Well, for this you have to know the reactivity series. So first is sodium chloride and copper. Copper and sodium chloride. So copper is less reactive as compared to sodium. So here the reaction will not take place. Second option is magnesium chloride and aluminium metal. So aluminium and magnesium, which is more reactive? Magnesium is more reactive. So aluminium is less reactive than magnesium. So aluminium cannot throw away magnesium. So this reaction also will not take place. Third option, we have ferrous sulfate solution and we have silver metal. So silver comes right at the bottom of the reactivity series, almost at the bottom. HgAgAu. So see, silver comes over here and iron comes at the top. So silver is less reactive. Again, no reaction. Final one, we have silver nitrate and it reacts with copper. So copper is more reactive than silver. So copper can throw away silver. So what will we get? We will get cupric nitrate and silver. Okay, so the last option is the correct one. The first three options are all wrong. I gave it multiple choice just to confuse you, and the correct answer is only one. The last one is right. Fifth, food cans are coated with tin and not with zinc. See, because if we talk about tin, tin comes here before lead. Forgot to write tin. So tin comes. Please stop calling me a careless zebra. Instead, try. Yeah. Tin comes over here and zinc comes at the top. So zinc is more reactive. It might react with the food. That is why instead of using zinc, we coat the food cans with tin, because zinc is more reactive. Sixth, metal found in free states are. So see, these metals which are at the bottom of the reactivity series, Hg, Ag, Au, Pt, these are found in free state because they are very less reactive. So the correct answer here is gold, silver, copper and platinum. Of course, silver is usually found in the case of silver sulfide, but it is also found in free state as well. So these four are the right options. Seventh, arrange the following in decreasing order of reactivity. So yeah, the second option is right, and most of you have said it's right, but some of you are confused about the signage. So see, first one was Na is greater than Ca, so this is correct. In the third option I gave Na is less than Ca, so this would be wrong. So the correct option is the second option. So I'll stop sharing and let's move ahead. Took a lot of time. Anyhow, again another question from 2016. It was a 2-marker. So let's see what's the correct answer for this. What can be the reason for this? So it is saying that this reaction can take place, but the reverse reaction will not take place. So if we take copper and react it with zinc sulfate, then there would be no reaction. So you have to give reason for this. What is the reason for this?
Copper is less reactive than zinc.
Yeah, very good, Anupam. The reason is that copper is less reactive than zinc. So imagine such a simple question is for 2 marks. So if you study, you can score very good marks in chemistry especially. Copper is less reactive than zinc. Yeah. So now this is another question from 2014, and all of these are of 1 mark each.
Mom, can you please show the last slide?
Yeah, Meghna, just a second. Yeah.
Thank you, Mom.
I hope you have understood this. Fine. Now let's talk about this question. Three parts, a very detailed question. Shall we start with the first one? So let me change the color of the pen. Some zinc pieces, so we take zinc, are placed in copper sulfate solution. So what would happen? Is this reaction going to take place?
Yes.
It would, and we will get zinc sulfate plus copper. But this is not the only question. They are asking what would happen. So this reaction would take place. That is true. But there are a few color changes that are going to take place. So what are those? So zinc is silvery white. Let me just write silver for now. Copper sulfate is blue. Zinc sulfate is colorless. And copper is reddish brown. So you will also have to tell or state the reasons here along with the reaction. So what are the observations that are going to take place? What are the observations in the first case? Just like what we have been doing. So anyone would like to answer or no? Vedant, Rishit, Khushi. ठीक है, it's very simple. See, the blue color of the solution disappears. The solution becomes colorless. The second observation is reddish brown coating of copper is formed on zinc. These are the two observations. Now in the second case, some copper pieces are placed in ferrous sulfate solution. So copper is less reactive than iron because copper was coming right at the bottom of the reactivity series. So here the reaction will not take place. And some students have also answered this in the chat. So very good. What about the third one? Anupam has written a detailed answer for the third one. Let me first write the equation. So we have an iron nail. Yeah, this is what we have been talking about, right? Plus copper sulfate gives ferrous sulfate plus copper. So the two observations are that the solution changes from blue to pale green. Second observation is reddish brown coating of copper is formed on iron. Fine. So these are the two observations in the third case. Very good, Anupam. Very nicely written. Thank you all for your answers. Okay, so let's move ahead. So we saw that this reactivity series is very important for us if we want to score good marks in board exams. Another question of the same type. I told you, right? It's asked almost every year. So this was asked in 2015 and it was a 2-marker. Iron knife dipped in a blue copper sulfate solution turns blue solution light green. What is the reason? The reason is that iron is more reactive than copper. Iron is more reactive than copper. Same question. So there is a high chance that it will again be asked in 2021, both for CBSE and ICSE people. Now let's talk about the reaction of metals with water. So here there are two important points to note. First is that whenever a metal reacts with water, we get two things. First of all, we get the metal oxide. We get metal oxide, and along with this metal oxide, we get some hydrogen gas. So this is simply a single displacement reaction again. This metal will come in place of hydrogen and hydrogen will be displaced from there, thrown away from there. So hydrogen becomes akela and metal combines with the oxygen. So metal reacts with water to give metal oxide and hydrogen. This is just the first part of the reaction. So this is part 1. But now there will be a second step to this reaction in special cases. So this metal oxide, it can either be soluble or it will be insoluble. So if this metal oxide is insoluble in water, only this first reaction will take place. But now suppose this metal oxide is soluble in water. So if metal oxide formed in the first reaction, formed in part 1, is soluble in water, then the reaction will take place further. Now what will happen? This metal oxide, if it is soluble in water, it will dissolve in water. So that metal oxide, when it dissolves in this water, it forms metal hydroxide. So is it clear? First part is common for all the metals, but second part only takes place if the metal oxide is soluble in water. Fine? Okay, if it's clear, shall I move on to the next slide? We'll see a lot more examples now. I'll just give you 10 seconds because I think Meghna must be writing it down.
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Okay. Fine. So let's do an experiment now. Let us take all these metals, fine, and react them one by one with water. So that water can either be cold water or hot water, or it will be so hot that it will be in the form of steam. So now First, let us take all of these metals and react them with cold water. Okay, what we'll see is that only sodium, potassium and calcium can react with cold water. Others will not show any reaction with cold water. Okay, only potassium and sodium will react with cold water. Oh, and also calcium. These three will react with cold water. Now let's do the second part of the reaction. Now whatever metals are remaining, let's react them with hot water. So when we react them with hot water, we will see that only magnesium is reacting with hot water. So Somil, cold means room temperature, or it can even be cold. It can even be cooler than the room temperature. So magnesium reacts with hot water. Okay, these others cannot react with hot water. Now we do the third part of the reaction. We take these remaining ones and we try to react them with steam. Okay, if we react them with steam, we will see that only aluminium, iron and zinc are able to react with steam. Okay, these four, lead, silver, copper and gold, they do not react with any of these. They do not react with cold water, they do not react with hot water, they do not react with steam. So this shows that these four, lead, silver, copper and gold, they cannot react with water. Okay, they do not react with water at all. Remember these four names: lead, silver, copper, gold. That is why people who wear jewelry would know that if it's gold, while taking bath and all, we do not need to remove the jewelry because it is not at all reacting with water. So potassium, sodium and calcium are reacting with cold water. Magnesium is reacting with hot water. Aluminium, iron and zinc are reacting with steam. So what do you think? Which of these are more reactive? The ones that are reacting with cold water, those are more reactive. So potassium, sodium and calcium are most reactive. Then comes magnesium and then come the other elements. So we'll see these reactions one by one now. First of all, we have potassium. Alright, so let's write the reaction.
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yeah, Nanda.
The three elements, that is sodium, potassium and calcium, will not react with hot water and steam.
No, they would. These are so reactive that even with cold water they are reacting. So of course they will also react with hot water and steam. And the reaction will be almost explosive. It will be a very violent reaction.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. So same way, magnesium can react with hot water also and steam also. But aluminium, iron and zinc can only react with steam. So let's write the reaction. We know that metal, so potassium looks somewhat like this, grayish in color. Most of the metals look grey in color. So we have potassium and we react it with water. We take cold water because if we take hot water, the reaction will be very explosive, we'll get burnt and all. Now, what would happen? What is the product here? You see this? What did I write here? Metal plus water gives metal oxide plus hydrogen. So tell me the products here.
K2O plus hydrogen.
Very good, Krish. We get K2O, potassium oxide, and we get hydrogen. So let's balance this equation. Chop chop, jaldi se balance and tell me the answer.
Ma'am, 2K.
2K, and yeah, it's balanced. But now we cannot stop here because this potassium oxide is soluble in water. So if potassium oxide is soluble in water, what will happen? Now the next part of the reaction will proceed, where metal oxide reacts with water to give metal hydroxide. Fine. So here potassium oxide is soluble in water. So if it is soluble in water, the second part of the reaction will happen. So we take K2O, it will dissolve in water, because here whatever K2O is formed, it is in the same container, no, in which this water was present. So both of them start reacting, and what do we get now? Let me show you this. We are going to get metal hydroxide. So what is the formula of potassium hydroxide? Yeah, it is KOH. Fine. So this is part 1 of the reaction, and this is part 2 of the reaction. Now let us try to add these two equations. If we try to add these two equations, what do we get? So first of all, let us add all the reactants. We get 2K plus water plus K2O plus water. Fine. It gives me K2O plus H2 plus KOH. What did I do here? I just added both the equations. I want to write it as a single equation. So now see, K2O is present on both sides. They get cancelled. So now what is my final equation? 2K plus 2 water gives KOH plus H2. So Soumya, you wrote this equation directly, right? But I hope you understood the reason. Why are we getting this equation here? Because potassium oxide was soluble in water. So is that clear to all of you? So if this question comes in exam, you don't really need to write part 1, part 2. You can directly write metal hydroxide plus hydrogen. So someone just unmute and tell me if this is clear or not, because aage also we are going to do this type of reactions.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, good. So if in exam this question comes, you do not need to write both of these. You can just write this final equation, which is what Soumya had written as the answer. So I have a video of reaction of potassium with cold water. So let's see what happens here.
You'll find that the reactivity is a little bit.
So did you see how
You'll find
explosive?
that the reactivity is a little bit greater.
Okay, so were all of you able to see the video? Because I tried in the last class, I couldn't play the video. So did it play this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you saw how explosive this was. In fact, the hydrogen gas that we got, it almost exploded. It caught fire. Oh, yeah. So did you also notice that here the color of the solution, why is the color of the solution changing? You see that pink purple color is appearing here. So what can be the reason for that? Just think about it. What can be the reason? Because if we talk about potassium hydroxide, this is colorless. This solution would be colorless. Then why are we getting pink color here? What is giving it that pink color?
Phenolphthalein?
Yeah, Rishabh, we are putting phenolphthalein in it, but why is the solution becoming pink?
Because phenolphthalein turns pink in basic medium.
In basic medium, very good. Here we were getting potassium hydroxide. So potassium hydroxide is a base. So the pH of the solution becomes more than 7. And therefore, in this solution, we have put 2 drops of phenolphthalein already. So this phenolphthalein, we know that it is an acid base indicator, and in basic medium, phenolphthalein has this pink color. So that is the reason why this happened. Okay. Chalo, now we'll do those reactions with sodium. So how will we proceed? Now I won't write the reaction. Someone must tell me how I should go about with it. Okay, I'm waiting.
Na plus H2O equal to NaOH.
See, Na reacts with water. First step mein, what do we get? Sodium oxide, which is Na2O, and we get some hydrogen. Now the sodium oxide is soluble in water, so we get sodium oxide. It dissolves in water. It gives me sodium hydroxide. Okay, and the first equation is not balanced. If I write a 2 over here, it gets balanced, and here also I should write a 2. So now if I combine these two equations, Na2O get cancelled. We get 2Na plus 2 water gives 2NaOH plus H2. This equation is balanced. And in the case of potassium, I forgot to balance the equation. So there is a 2 over here. So this becomes 2KOH. So just make this correction. Yeah, so this is my final equation now. And I also have a video to show this reaction. And then we'll see why potassium is more reactive than sodium. So I'm changing the slide and playing the video. So here sodium is reacting with cold water. You see how it goes round and round and round. So that sodium is slowly reacting and dissolving in water. So a lot of fumes are rising from the reaction mixture. And again, the solution has become pink in color because of phenolphthalein, because sodium hydroxide is a strong base. Now, after seeing both the videos, how can you say that potassium has a higher reactivity than sodium? If you compare the two videos, what is the difference here?
Potassium reacts with the cold water very vigorously.
Yeah, very good. So that means that potassium is going to be more reactive than sodium, because in that case the reaction was very vigorous. Okay, just give me a second. Now let's move forward and see the reaction of calcium with water. Here again there is a very interesting thing that we are going to note. So we'll take some calcium and let's react it with water. Tell me the products. What are the products here?
Plus H2.
Sorry?
CaO plus H2.
Very good, very good.
CaO plus H2.
Good.
CaO plus H2.
हाँ ठीक है, I got it. So we get CaO and H2. So is this CaO soluble in water?
Yes.
Yeah, you remember this is quicklime. Quicklime is dissolved in water to give us slaked lime or lime water, which is used in whitewashing the walls. So this calcium oxide, it is soluble in water, and what will it give me now?
NaOH twice.
NaOH. You are in dreamland. Nandana.
CaOH twice.
So we get calcium hydroxide, CaOH twice. And let me just remind you again, it has different names. It is called slaked lime. It is also known as lime water. You remember when CO2 is passed through lime water turns milky. So this is that lime water. So now let us combine these two equations. Here we get Ca plus 2H2O gives CaOH whole twice plus H2. Okay, so this is my final equation. And if this is clear, I'll give you 10 seconds. Just see this, set it in your mind, and then I'll show you the reaction. Okay, and see the reaction carefully because I'm going to ask a question from there. So this is my reaction mixture. Let me play the video. Yeah, I hope you have seen this carefully. So I'll just stop now. And here goes my question. What is the special thing that you noticed here at the end of the reaction? Did you notice anything peculiar?
Water turned milk to white.
Water turned milky, that's fine. What else did you notice? Any other discrete observation here? No? Shall I play it once again? Any other special thing that can be seen? Yeah, there are bubbles. What else? What else do we see here?
Something floating inside.
Yes, steam coming out.
See, the calcium that we had put, it starts swimming after some time. It comes up. Very good, Khushi. So that smoke and all is fine. Smoke is just, it's appearing to be smoke because there are a lot of fumes of hydrogen gas evolving. Fine. So here, one peculiar observation is that the calcium that we had put in the mixture, after some time it starts floating on the top. And what is the reason for that? Can you think of a reason? Can you think of a reason why calcium starts floating on water? Floating in the reaction mixture? Think about a hot air balloon. What happens in a hot air balloon? In it, we have put in a lot of air, so it can take us up, right? So same thing. Yeah, he's disturbing a lot. Just a second. Walter! You're too loud. Yeah, I scolded him. Yeah. So here, think of a hot air balloon. How can we compare it to this case? We saw that there were hydrogen bubbles, right? So those hydrogen bubbles are very light. So they rise to the top because they are lighter than water. When they rise to the top, the calcium, it sticks to it. The calcium sticks to the surface of those bubbles and then it comes up with the hydrogen bubbles. So is that clear? Is this point clear? Why does calcium start floating? Because it sticks to the surface of the hydrogen bubbles and thus rises up. Okay. So that is what I have written here. Why does calcium start floating on reaction with water? So let me just write it because again it is a previous year's question. Calcium sticks to the hydrogen bubbles. To the hydrogen bubbles and rises to the top of the reaction mixture. So I hope this point is clear to all of you. And this has been asked. Somil, I see that you have raised your hand. What happened?
Might be a mistake, ma'am. I didn't do that.
Okay, wait, I'll lower your hand. Oh, I changed the slide. Okay, so I think this is clear now and let's try to answer this question. So this was a 3 marker. First part was of 2 marks and second part was of 1 mark. Unmute and answer the first part of it. Why does calcium start floating when it reacts with water? Yeah, Meghna, first you answer this, then I'll go to the last slide because last slide has this answer. Very good, Rishabh. Calcium sticks to the hydrogen bubbles and rises to the top of the mixture. So, Meghna, you can note it down. And the second part was asking for the balanced equation. So, give me the balanced equation. Very good, Rishabh. But even the second part, because calcium oxide will dissolve in water. Alright. So here, write the balanced chemical equation for the reaction. I can write it like this. Calcium reacts with cold water to give, I'm just writing the final equation, calcium hydroxide plus hydrogen gas. And if I write a 2 over here, this is the balanced chemical equation. Name 2 metals which do not react with water. Let us name 4 metals. What are those 4 metals? We have lead, copper, silver,
and platinum.
gold. Even platinum is not going to react with water. Okay. So this is the answer. And you can see, do you think these are tough questions? Do you think you will be able to answer this in the exam very easily? So each and every question is going to be from the textbook. If you study your one book, or for ICSE people, if you study those 3 books carefully, life is simple. You don't need to refer to any extra material. Okay, now let's write the reactions for magnesium. Now this time I am not going to write the reactions. Tell me the answer and I will just note it down. reaction of magnesium with water. So first of all, magnesium, remember, it only reacts with hot water. It does not react with cold water. So what are the reactions here? Magnesium reacts with water. First of all, we'll
It
get,
becomes MgO.
very good, MgO. Along with MgO, it will also give me hydrogen gas. Fine. And this MgO is soluble in water. So we'll get MgO. Okay. It is going to react with water and it will give me magnesium hydroxide. What is the formula of magnesium hydroxide? Yeah, it is MgOH whole twice. So we'll now add these two, simple addition. What is the final equation? Yeah, it would be Mg plus 2H2O gives MgOH twice plus hydrogen. This MgO and this MgO gets cancelled on both sides when we add. And you know, here also the same thing will happen. This magnesium starts floating on the top of the reaction mixture. So magnesium also starts floating because of the same reason. It sticks to the bubbles of hydrogen. So magnesium starts floating. The reason is the same as that of calcium. Very good, Swati. Very good. Soumya, Rishabh, thank you for your answers. So let's see a video for the reaction of magnesium with water. And you remember in the last class I had shown you a picture of magnesium ribbon. So it's the same ribbon here. So let me play this video now. The reaction is slow. There are some bubbles. And see, magnesium started floating on the top. Right? So the bubbles are of hydrogen. And magnesium is rising to the top because it sticks to the bubbles of hydrogen. So I hope you could see the reaction.
Can you please play it again?
Yeah, I'll play it. Nice, no? You understood now? See, we are heating. When the water is cold initially, the reaction is not taking place. That is why we have to heat it with a Bunsen burner. Once it becomes hot, then the reaction starts. Yeah. So, I hope this is clear. So, now a question. Here in this case, why is the solution not turning pink? What is the reason? In the earlier two cases, the solution was becoming pink in color.
Acidic.
No. We are getting what? See, we are getting magnesium hydroxide. Magnesium hydroxide is again a base. So why is this solution not turning pink in color?
Naphthalene was not added.
Yes, Anupam, very good. Here we didn't add phenolphthalein. So why will it become pink? Only when we add the indicator, there will be some color change. So we have not added any indicator here. That is why the solution remains colorless, although it is basic. Okay. Now on a slightly different note, let's see the reaction of aluminium with water. Tell me, what should I write? So I have aluminium. I will react it with water. What happens? So today I see that Vedant and Dhruv are very silent.
A2O3.
Al2O3 plus H2O.
Plus H2 or H2O?
H2.
Yeah, very good, Krish. So I was saying that today Vedant and Dhruv, the two cousins, are very silent. So what do we get here? Al2O3 plus. Okay, what happened to this? Yeah, plus hydrogen. Now, what is the next part of the reaction? What is the next part of the reaction?
Al2O3 plus H2O.
Gives
Al2OH twice.
So you mean to say aluminium hydroxide, right? So see, aluminium is Al3 plus, hydroxide is OH minus. So aluminium hydroxide would be AlOH thrice. Okay, AlOH thrice. Let's balance the first equation now. How will you balance it? Tell me the balanced equation. The first one.
2Al, then 3H2O and 3H2.
And 3H2. Very good. This is balanced. But now, no one asked me if Al2O3 is soluble or not. This is actually insoluble in water. Al2O3 is insoluble in water. So, this second reaction is not going to take place. Is it clear? The second reaction is not going to take place because aluminium oxide that we got here is actually insoluble in water. So the reaction is just going to stop at this point. Hydroxide formation will not take place. Is that clear, all of you? This is a mistake that
Yes,
students make. Here, the second part will not take place at all. And Soumya, you wrote 2623. So that is not correct. Just check the balancing again. Yeah. So is this clear now? Only the first part is going to take place. The second part is not taking place because aluminium oxide is insoluble in water. Fine. Okay, now let's move on to the next part. Reaction. Oh, I forgot to tell you one thing. Aluminium doesn't react with cold water. It doesn't react with hot water. It only reacts with steam. So whenever you write this reaction, do not forget to write steam here. If it's cold water, reaction is not going to take place at all. Now, reaction of iron with water. So this is also a reaction of iron with steam because iron doesn't react with cold water. It doesn't react with hot water. It only reacts with steam. Okay. And this reaction again has been asked multiple times because of a very special compound that we'll get here. So let's write the reaction. We have iron and we have water. What do you think? What are we going to get?
FeO plus H2.
FeO. Okay. Plus H2. What is FeO?
Iron oxide.
Yeah, but
Fe2O3. Fe2O3.
so we have two things, no? FeO and Fe2O3. What is FeO? It is iron 2 oxide. Here the valency of iron is 2. And we have Fe2O3. Here the valency of iron is 3. Alright. So they have other names. This is ferrous oxide. And this is ferric oxide. Did you know this? Did you know that iron has two valencies, +2 and +3?
ma'am.
So here we are getting two oxides. One is ferrous, one is ferric. So what do you think? In this first reaction, what should we get? FeO or Fe2O3? What should we get here? कंफ्यूजन ही कंफ्यूजन है. क्या मिलेगा पता नहीं. What are we going to get here? So Rishabh, here iron is alone. So if an atom is alone, its valency is 0. This is a special case. Here we are going to get a mixture of both. We are going to get ferroso-ferri oxide. So we'll get FeO dot Fe2O3. Okay. This is known as mixed oxide of iron. It is a mixture of ferrous oxide and ferric oxide. This is known as mixed oxide of iron. And it has another special name. Its name is ferroso-ferri oxide. This question is very important for your exam. Very, very, very important. Okay. So what we got here was neither ferrous oxide nor was it ferric oxide. Instead, we got a mixed oxide. And FeO dot Fe2O3, you can write it as Fe3O4. You can combine all of these. So we get 3 iron atoms and 4 oxygen atoms. So this is nothing but Fe3O4. Chalo, now balance this equation. Balancing this is a little bit tricky, but try and balance and don't tell me the answer. Just write it in the chat box. I want all of you to try and balance this equation. It will be a good practice for us. Soumya, it is ferroso-ferri, not ferric. It is ferroso-ferri oxide. Some people also call it ferro-ferri oxide or ferri-ferro oxide. So I'm still waiting for the balancing answers. Only Somil and Krish have answered. Khushi is silent today. Pooja also is silent. I think they are just lying down and enjoying the class. I got an answer from Vedant. Tough one, right? I think you have done it. So let me try. Let me revise. So on the right hand side, there are, wow, I got so many answers. Thank you, Arushi. So Fe3O4, 3 iron. So I must write a 3 over here. Now here oxygen atoms are 4. So if I write a 4 over here, that's fine. Now I am just left to balance hydrogen. So hydrogen atoms are 8 on the left hand side. So if I write a 4 here, the equation would be balanced. So it is 3, 4, 1 and 4. Okay. 3, 4, 1 and 4. This equation is balanced. Do you think the second step of the reaction is going to take place? Do you think we are going to get iron oxide after all, iron hydroxide after all of this? No, because this ferroso-ferri oxide is actually insoluble in water. It is insoluble in water. Therefore, this reaction will just stop over here. And remember, iron only reacts with steam. It doesn't react with cold water. It doesn't react with hot water. Okay, so Swati, you have written an equation, but instead of Fe3O4, you have written ferric oxide. So that is not correct. You have to write Fe3O4, not ferric oxide. Okay, so if this reaction is clear,
Ma'am, how can we test that this metal oxide is soluble or insoluble?
so you have to learn it. There is no other method, Krish. Okay, you have to learn it. So usually it's easy to learn because sodium, potassium, calcium and magnesium, they are soluble in water. Others are all insoluble in water. Okay, you can learn. There's 4 or 5 names. Okay, so I hope this part is clear. And Soumya, yeah, just note that it's a common mistake by students and it's a frequent exam question. So do not make this mistake. Let's move forward now. Reaction of zinc with water. So zinc, yeah, Soumya, that's a nice trick. If it's a known name, it's soluble. Otherwise, it's insoluble. So zinc again, we saw that it reacts only with steam. It doesn't react with hot or cold water. So let's write the reaction. We have zinc. It's reacting with water in the form of steam. And what will we get now? What are the products?
ZnO plus H2.
Very good, Nandana. Correct answer, ZnO plus H2, and the reaction will again just stop here because zinc oxide is insoluble in water. Insoluble in water. So I didn't mention steam here. I should have written steam. Okay. And yeah, this reaction also is balanced. Now moving on to the next part. Yeah, we see a diagram here. This diagram has been asked in your exam. Okay, once, not many times, but it has been asked only once in all these years. So it's important. So let's try to understand what we are doing here. Here we have taken a metal. So we are trying to see the action of steam on metals. What are we trying to do? Action of steam on metals. So this metal can be anything. It can either be aluminium, or it can be iron, or it can be zinc. So here, this gray thing that you see here, this is the metallic strip. This is the metal which we have to react with steam. So how do I supply steam to it? I have an option. You see this bundle here, it looks like a bunch of hair. This is actually a cotton ball. Okay, this is a cotton ball. So this cotton ball, we have soaked it in water. We have nicely soaked it in water. There is also some water here in the test tube. Now, once we apply some heat over here, if we heat the water, it will become steam. That steam will start reacting with this metallic strip. Fine. That steam will react with this metal. Once it reacts with the metal, you will get metal oxide. So that metal oxide will just stay over here. Along with that, you will get hydrogen gas. Where will the hydrogen gas go? That hydrogen gas will pass through this tube. Okay, this is a delivery tube. So that hydrogen gas, it passes through this tube, and then we have kept some water in a beaker, and we have kept an inverted test tube. So this hydrogen gas, it slowly rises up and it displaces this water. It pushes the water that was there in this here, it pushes it downward, and hydrogen gas gets stored at the top. If you test it, if you bring a burning candle near it, the hydrogen gas will burn with a pop sound. So what do we have here? We have hydrogen gas. So what is this method of collection? How have we stored this hydrogen here? What is this method known as?
Ma'am, downward displacement of water.
Yeah, very good, Swati. So this is nothing but the downward displacement of water, because hydrogen has pushed the water downward. So this diagram is important. This tube here is the delivery tube. Okay, so this is how this diagram looks on paper. Now let me show you an actual experimental setup. It looks somewhat like this. So we have a test tube. In that we have some cotton soaked in water. We are heating that water. Here is the metal. It reacts. It produces hydrogen. Hydrogen gas passes through this delivery tube, and then it is being collected in this test tube filled with water. Okay. So let's see a video of this experiment. Okay. So again, I'm going to ask a few questions. So look at the video carefully. So in this test tube, I have taken some iron. I hope you are able to see the video, because it doesn't look very good on Walter's screen. There is a lot of lag. It's stopping in between. Yeah. So did you see this? I'll play it once again. Now just notice what is happening on the right hand side. The part where the person is holding that test tube to collect water. See how the bubbles of hydrogen are rising up. And then that person is collecting it in a test tube. Okay, don't worry, Krish. I'll put up this video in a few days or weeks, and then you can see it again. So this is how hydrogen gets collected. This is the action of steam on iron metal. Yeah, now let's see a question. So these were the reactions of different metals with water, and we saw that lead, copper, silver, gold, platinum do not react with water at all. So we have a question now. This question is from NCERT textbook. Try to answer it. Why is copper used to make hot water tanks, but we don't use steel to make hot water tanks? What can be the reason?
It stores the heat.
It
Steel reacts with steel. Steel reacts with heat, whereas copper doesn't.
Yeah, Anupam, that's very correct. See, we need a metal which will not react with steam. Hot water tanks, they contain a lot of steam because we are heating water, right? So if we use a copper vessel to make hot water tank, we know that copper does not react with water at all. So copper does not react with water. But what happens in the case of steel? Steel is an alloy. Steel is an alloy, so it is a mixture of different elements, and iron is one of them. So steel is an alloy of iron. We'll see the composition of steel in the next class. It is an alloy of iron. So what will happen? That iron will react with steam. So this iron reacts with steam. So if this iron will react with steam, what will happen? The insides of the hot water tank will become corroded. So slowly that hot water tank will get pitted from the inside, which reacts with steam. So the hot water tank gets corroded from inside. So that is why all the hot water bottles or hot water tanks, they are all made of copper and not steel. So I hope this part is clear. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I hope this part is clear now. And after this, I'm going to launch a poll. That will be the last topic for today. So I'll just give you 10 seconds to read what I've written. Yeah. So let me launch the next poll, and your time starts now. So Anupam, how did you celebrate your birthday? What did you do? And how old are you now? No great celebration. Okay. You must have had biryani, I guess. Yes. Yeah, so even we do that. On our birthday, anniversaries, it's always biryani. Fine. So let me share the results. Lot of mixed answers. So first one, we have been provided with 3 metals and we have to identify which is what. We only have water with us. So what are the correct options? First is sodium reacts with hot water. Yeah, that is true. Sodium reacts with all 3. Hot water, cold water and steam. So first one is true. Second one, sodium reacts with cold water. That is also true. Third, magnesium reacts with cold water. This is false. Fourth, magnesium reacts with hot water. That is correct. Then copper reacts with hot water, reacts with steam. These are wrong because copper shows no reaction with water. So what are the correct options here? First, second, fourth and the last one. Yeah, most of you gave the right answers. Second, a metal which can displace hydrogen from boiling water as well as steam. So from boiling water and steam, we have just potassium. Zinc only reacts with steam. Zinc will not react with boiling water. So here the correct answer is only potassium. Third, the luster of a metal. It's a typo, I wrote metals. So the luster of a metal is due to. Yeah, this is something that I have not discussed today, but I'll talk about it. Just give me a second. Fourth, the compound formed when steam reacts with water. Okay, so this was when iron reacts with steam. We get ferroso-ferri oxide, which is also known as mixed oxide of iron. So the last 2 options are correct. Fifth, an iron nail is kept in a test tube. The color of the solution changes. What can the solution be? So the solution will be of a metal which is less reactive than iron. So there is no other option. The solution can only be copper sulfate, because all others are more reactive than iron. Sixth, calcium and magnesium are heavier than water but still float in water. This is because they stick to the hydrogen bubbles. Very good. Seventh, which of the following metals do not react with hot water, steam or cold water? So here the correct answer is copper and gold. Remember, there are different elements which do not react with water. We have lead, copper, silver, gold, platinum. All of them do not react with water. So here there were two correct answers, copper and gold. Yeah, so now let us discuss what is the reason for metallic luster. Why do metals have luster on them? So this is because metals have a lot of free electrons. Metals have free electrons. So these free electrons, whenever they gain some energy, they move to the higher orbit in the atom. Whenever they lose energy, they come to the lower orbit. So this is something that we'll see in class 11th. But yeah, just know that these free electrons, they can go to the higher orbit when they absorb energy. They can come to the lower orbit if they lose energy. So because of this energy transition, we get some shine or some luster. This is a very rudimentary way of explaining it, but yeah, this is what happens. So metals have free electrons. These free electrons lose energy and go to lower orbits. Okay, so because of this release of energy, metals have luster, or metals have a shiny finish, because the free electrons in them, they can lose energy and move into the lower orbits. So that energy that is radiated or that is released, that gives this shine to the metallic surface. So is this clear? Of course I wrote it very artistically, but yeah, that's all for today, and I'll see you people on Friday.